You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to They Live by Film, a platform dedicated to bringing you film discussion and interviews from around the world. I'm Adam Lundy, and I'm joined as always by my co-hosts Chris Haskell and Zach Bryant.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
Howdy, how we all doing?
Awesome, man.
Not so bad. Just enjoying the rain, I guess, because that's all we've had for like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we're kind of similar here. It was really nice for a couple of weeks, and then all this week it's been raining. So it's like, okay, there goes our summer. I won't see the sun again now for the rest of the year.
It was nice while it lasted, right?
Yeah, it was good. And Chris
Are
just in
you?
Texas melting.
Yeah, we won't go there. I mean, it's been a nice week weather-wise. If y'all want a weather report, it's been cool and a couple showers every couple days in a row. But we're just bracing ourselves because once the rain stops, which is pretty much now, we'll just have 100 degrees until October or something.
Fuck that.
But are y'all, Adam, do you take part in the either July or August like European vacation tradition?
No, that's just like I think that's pretty much just a France thing where you just fuck off on vacation for a few
That
weeks and the
sounds
whole
like a
country
snooty
shuts
French thing.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very like middle class French.
Okay.
That's like not a thing for like normal people outside of France.
You could have just said
It's
normal people.
You,
Yeah, right, yeah.
you know, that's the kind of thing that's like in Eric Romer movies, but
right.
like no normal people are actually doing that. Um, like we
Which
have
I
our
guess we
summer.
sort of have a similar thing here. Like we talk about like Montana snowbirds and stuff like that that go vacation out in Florida.
Right. They're like retired, right?
Yeah, yeah. They just don't want to deal with the heat when they're 80. Or the cold, I mean, not deal with the cold when they're 80.
Yeah, just wondering. Yeah, that Northern Europe they do it too. We have some clients right now up in Poland and Norway, and we have to plan around that coming up. Anything we want done, we have to get done in June because one country's off in July, the next country's off in August.
That's crazy.
Um, yeah. It's I mean, it seems kind of ideal. I don't mind it. But anyways, y'all been watching any movies?
Yeah, I have a few things. I have more to talk about this time maybe than last episode, although I can't remember what we talked about last episode. Maybe it was all the Hitchcock stuff. But I watched a couple of things. I had a kind of slow start to the month, and then I got to watch a couple of stuff more recently. Um, Pretty much, I think might have been the day we recorded last, or maybe it was like a week later or a few days later or something. I watched a film that's been on my radar for a while, and you guys have probably seen it or you definitely know about it. It's The Parallax View, the
Yeah.
Alan Pakula film,
Yeah.
the guy who did Clute and obviously All the President's Men. This is the other film as part of that kind of paranoia trilogy. And I don't know if have you guys seen The Parallax View?
You were just
No.
saying a bunch of like words to me that meant nothing.
Oh,
So
you
this is
don't
a
you don't
Chris
know
question.
you don't know All the President's Men?
I think I've heard of it.
You don't know Clute?
Um,
I've heard of Clute.
Oh, oh, that's
uh,
cool. I mean, this would be really up your alley. Parallax View, especially, it's very similar vibes to Blowout. Um,
Ooh, okay. Not blow up, right? Blow
Not
out.
Blow Up, Blowout. Yeah,
Good,
yeah,
good.
yeah, Blowout. It's really good. It's Warren Beatty, and he plays this journalist who is basically trying to get to the bottom of a conspiracy where the people who witnessed an assassination are starting to get killed off. And he's basically investigating this, and he ends up as part of this, in this web of conspiracies. It's a really great film, and it's shot incredibly. The cinematography is really cool because everything's kind of shot from afar, as if like he's always being watched. Really, really cool film. It's from 1974. So I would really recommend if you like paranoid thrillers. This is like one of the best ones I've seen.
You know, it's
yeah.
kind of funny. I think the reason is I've looked at this guy's his name's Alan P Pakula. Pakula?
Yeah,
Pacula, something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Pacula.
and I
Yeah.
think the reason I always never get to his movies is because the dude picks some of the most boring titles for his movies, but I always hear they're good. Like Pelican's Brief. Like, what the fuck is that? That just sounds boring.
Oh, dude, the Pelican Brief.
Consenting Adults.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Presumed
Presumed innocent.
Innocent. These are John Grisham titles.
Sophie's
Exactly.
Choice. No, I'm just
Yeah,
joking.
like now I will say Parallax View is a pretty dope title. I can get into that.
Mm. No, but you would love these, man, because a lot of the stuff has conspiracy theories like all over it, um, or Machiavellian schemes.
So are the three movies like related at all, or are they just kind of in like a thematic trilogy?
Yeah, it's a thematic trilogy,
Okay.
paranoia trilogy. So All the President's Men is just it's that's a retelling of Watergate. Um,
Okay.
Parallax View is obviously fictional, and then Clute is a bit more smaller. It's about a private detective. It's Donald Sutherland, if I remember correctly. It's been I haven't seen that in years, ever since the memes from
Yeah.
a throwback to Or Criterion back in 2019, when Criterion announced Clute instead of the Spine 1000 title, and everyone went fucking crazy.
I do remember that actually.
Yeah, so Clute's a bit more smaller scale than the other two, but
Then
Parallax View is
Godzilla as
great.
well.
Yeah, well, that was it. Everyone was waiting for that, and then they said, "Here's a Blu-ray upgrade of Clute," and everyone was like, "What the?" Such simpler times, man. 2019, bring me
Oh man, I
back.
remember like all that. I think I got like a fuck ton of like upvotes when I used Reddit more because I put House of a Thousand Corpses as a joke as for like that, and for some reason that joke actually landed surprisingly. Between all the other thousand ideas people had,
Yeah, I did one for Space Jam,
that would be
and
awesome.
people got a kick out of it. But anyway, speaking of conspiracy movies, I've been I finally caught up on some Marvel stuff. I won't talk about them too deeply, but I saw Captain America: Brave New World. It has a an interesting enough concept. It has this kind of like Manchurian Candidate plot, but then it's yeah, the last act is just a fucking mess.
Is it dog
So
shit like everyone says it is?
like it's not dog shit. Like I think it has a good premise, but it's just a typical late stage Marvel film now, whereas the end is just an incoherent CGI mess that doesn't really matter. So yeah, yeah, it's definitely I'm not gonna watch it again. Thunderbolts I liked a lot more, just felt fresher. Enjoyed the characters. I thought Lewis Pullman in particular was very good. I didn't realize he was Bill Pullman's son until like Neve whispered that to me in the cinema. And I was like, oh shit, he does look exactly like fucking Bill Pullman. Now I can't unsee it. Um, so
Okay,
yeah, I like
I have a question, and I will try not to derail us too much. So I
yeah,
also
sure.
saw Thunderbolts, and
Yeah.
this is the first one I've seen since Multiverse of Madness.
Hmm.
So when I got out of the cinema, I started looking up because I like Wyatt Russell just in general. So he played like
Hmm.
his name Walker.
John
So
Walker, I think, yeah. Which is
yeah,
that not the name of the character that is it that Henry Cavill plays in Mission Impossible
yeah, it is in
Fallout?
Fallout. So that I
Okay.
noticed that too since I just watched it. Yeah. Um, But yeah, so my question is, so there's a part in the film that really confuses me after I looked it up. So I didn't watch Falcon or Winter Soldier, so I'm missing a lot of
Yeah.
context here. There's a part where they kind of like mess with him about killing someone innocent. So I was like, oh, that might actually mean the show's pretty interesting because that seems like an interesting idea to like explore. And then I found out he killed a terrorist, so I'm really confused what shit he's getting for killing a terrorist.
So if I remember the show correctly, because I've only seen it once and it was when it came out, it wasn't necessarily that he killed a terrorist, it was how he did it. So the scene is not heroic at all. He literally bashes the dude's head in with the Captain America shield and just stands there in a town square with a Captain America's shield just covered in blood. While this guy was defenseless, just kind of lying
You're
there.
selling this on me more and more, man. This sounds awesome. I'm becoming a Walker
I'm
stan
not
here.
saying it's not awesome, yeah, but I think innocent's probably the wrong word. Defenseless is probably better because the dude was just kind of lying there, ready to be taken in, captured, and but instead, because for context, and this I'm not, I don't give a shit. This is a spoiler. for context, the guy had just killed Walker's partner, so that's why he was so pissed about it. And he just said, fuck this guy, I'm just gonna fucking bash his head in with Captain America's shield. Um,
Because like this dude
so
blew up like a hospital, right? Like that's the whole, or like was
I
part of
don't
this.
remember.
Yeah, or some shit.
I'm not
I
even
was
gonna lie
looking it
to you.
up afterwards, and I was just like, I am so confused. Because I was gonna watch it, I was like, oh well, if it's like exploring like somebody who got like the shield and was gonna go in and like killed someone like innocent, I'd be like, I could be down for that. That
No.
sounds really cool. But then I read that and I'm like, that doesn't sound interesting at all. Like he domed a terrorist. That's cool. Like
Yeah, so that's it really. A couple of other things just before we move past. You guys are going to be so proud of me. I watched Rambo,
which one? The
First
fourth
Blood.
one?
Well, sorry, First Blood. I watched a Rambo movie.
Oh,
I
okay.
watched the
First
first
Blood's
one.
great.
Yeah, it was a good time. Um, not high art or anything. It was a good time. I'm pissed that nobody told me that it basically takes place in Twin Peaks. That would have been
Yeah.
you guys should have sold that to me like a long time ago. Because like I had to like look this up. I needed to make sure that this wasn't filmed in North Bend, Washington. I was like, this literally looks like the mountains in fucking Twin Peaks. It wasn't. It was filmed in Canada somewhere. Um, but yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed
Are
it.
you gonna like
Had
watch any
fun.
more of them, or are you like good at
Probably
First Blood?
not. Yeah, like I read the synopsis and I'm just like, I prefer this kind of small scale thing. I don't need to see this guy sent out like he's fucking Captain America or whatever to
I
go and
will
go on
say,
secret missions and stuff.
if you watch any of them after this, the fourth one is probably one of the like bloodiest R-rated movies I ever watched. Like I was 10 years old when I saw this in theaters, and I am amazed they let me go see it because I mean, you're seeing like people like blown apart with 50 cal machine guns, like tore apart. Like they don't cut away, they don't like tone it down. It is it is messy, and I really recommend
Perfect
it.
time.
That explains so much. Thank you for letting us see
No,
see some
honestly
insight there.
though, like I saw RoboCop when I was like around the same age. Like there was just like no issue at all showing kids in the US like extremely violent content.
Thank God.
That's because you will probably see that if you go to school regularly. So.
Yeah,
But
true.
however, a couple of really good films I saw. I saw Under the Silver Lake, which I know Zach, you've seen that, which is
Excellent
really,
movie.
really, really good. Yeah, I'd heard some mixed reviews on it. It seemed like people either loved it or hated it.
I think
Um,
people had an issue with like the resolution because it's
a lack thereof, I guess.
yeah, like because I feel like I don't want to get into spoilers, but part of it seems like a lot of like criticism towards wasting your time like on mysteries like that, like looking too deep into certain things. Because this came, of course, right after It Follows. Like this was his follow up after It Follows, and it almost seems like a criticism of how much people looked into that film
Mm.
Mhm.
instead of
Yeah,
like
but
taking it as it is.
and it was interesting because like a lot of the like a lot of stuff that I'd heard kind of in passing, I didn't want to read too deeply on it before I watched it because I wanted to go in fresh. And a lot of the criticisms or stuff that I'd heard kind of in passing with people frustrated about not understanding what was even happening. And I'm like, it's actually a pretty easy film to follow.
Yeah, it's weird, but I mean,
So it's weird, but like it's not like it's overly surreal or anything.
if you can
But
watch season one of Twin Peaks, I think you can watch this. Like,
yeah, for sure. It's
yeah.
it's yeah. You haven't seen it, Chris, have you? Under the Silver Lake. Um, it's,
No, no, I don't think so.
it's by the guy David Mitchell. He did It Follows. It came out in 2018. It has Andrew Garfield. If you like, there's this kind of subgenre called stoner noir.
Okay.
And the Long Goodbye is kind of like the blueprint for it. Just that kind of
I do
like
like that.
meandering, kind of cool neo noir.
Yeah.
It would definitely fall into that category. It's very weird, but there's lots of Hitchcock references. There's lots of David Lynch references. It's just a cool little hodgepodge of styles and influences. It's an interesting time. I think you would enjoy it because there's a lot of really kind of just out there surreal moments in it.
I'd
I,
be
I I
curious to
think
see.
I think you would
The
get something out of
cast,
it.
the cast is something that would make me never ever watch this without a recommendation.
You don't
Why?
like
So,
Andrew Garfield?
Andrew Garfield's great.
I mean, he's fine, but like Topher Grace is fine.
He's
Like,
barely in it, to be fair.
Yeah, like
okay,
it really is mostly a Andrew
It's
Garfield vehicle.
Yeah, it's purely a vehicle for him. Everyone else is only in it very briefly.
okay,
There's a lot of side characters.
cool, great.
Um,
Yeah,
other
I'll try to watch it.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. I watched Perfect Days, the Wim Wenders film that kind
Yeah.
of came out, I think, last year. Just a nice, sweet little film. I don't know if it'd be your speed, Zach, but probably something you would like, Chris. Kind of very Otsu adjacent. Just kind of a dude living his life. He's a toilet attendant in parks in Tokyo. Um, yeah, just a nice, sweet
Cool.
film. Um, Watched A Complete Unknown, Bob Dylan biopic.
Oh
It's
God, how
bio.
bad was it?
It's a bio. It was fine. Like it's a biopic.
Yeah, and it's
It's
made by the guy who did Walk the Line, so at least he kind of knows what he's doing. I just don't like Timothy
it's
Chalamet.
it's perfectly fine. It's a bio. Like you can just read the Wikipedia and you'll get the same. Like I don't hate like I say I don't actively seek out biopics. If something Neve wanted to watch it, and because I like Bob Dylan, like I like Bob Dylan's music, so I was like, yeah, sure. And I actually don't mind Timothy Chalamet. I'm not one, I'm not really too fussed about him either. So I watched it and it was fine. It told a story, most of which I already knew, but it had songs that I liked in it. But yeah, it's fine. I wouldn't be telling anyone to go out of their way to watch it. It doesn't reinvent the biopic or anything like that. It's a music biopic. They're all the same, really. And then just earlier today, I watched one of the worst films I've ever seen in my whole fucking life. Um, Fear Street Prom Queen, which just came out on Netflix. It is
Oh,
horrible. And I liked the Fear Street movies that came out. I think what they weren't last year, it was like the year before. It's been a couple of years since the first sort of set of Fear Street films came out. And I liked them. I thought they were fun. They didn't take themselves too seriously, and they did this really good job of threading the line between just hokey, kind of almost like Riverdale, like teeny bopper horror, while also being really fucking gruesome. It really threaded that line well. But this film is just horrible. The script is bad. The story is terrible. The characters are non-existent. The acting is terrible. It's just there's very little. The only redeeming qualities of the film is that it actually is pretty gory. Has some okay kills. Um, and the soundtrack is just full of 80s pop synth pop bangers. So those are pretty much the only redeeming qualities of this film. I do not recommend it, not even as like a curiosity. Like I had read bad reviews and I thought I'll still get something out of this. I'll still find some way to enjoy it. I could not wait for this. It is 90 minutes long and it felt like 3 hours. It was awful. So
Zach,
do
please
not
tell me you
see
have like a plushie from this movie or something.
What?
why I didn't
Please
catch
tell me you
that.
love this movie enough to have like a tchotchke from it or something.
No, Zach hasn't even seen it yet. It's only just come
No,
out.
I haven't. No, I haven't been in a rush.
No.
Okay. I was just waiting for you to be like with- telling Adam you had a hot take.
No, 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 I haven't seen it. I'm not like honestly, Adam, you might have liked the Fear Street movies more than me. I can't remember. I thought they were fine. Um, as far as like nostalgia pieces go, they were solid enough. But yeah, I haven't been in a rush with all the bad reviews to see this one.
Yeah, I don't blame you. And if anyone's listening, don't do it to yourself. You'll never get that 90 minutes back. It's like I likened it. I was saying this, me and Neve were watching it together, and we were just chatting through it because it was so bad. And I likened it to that terrible Cloverfield Paradox film, where it was clearly just another film that they just tacked on Cloverfield to, just in hopes of getting more people to watch it. And it feels like that. I just feel like somebody made a shit slasher movie And Netflix were like, oh fuck, we better just put Fear Street on it, just in hopes of getting people to watch it. And they succeeded because they got me to watch it because it had Fear Street on it. So I'm the sucker. But that's not actually true because is apparently also based on an R.L. Stein book. So it is actually a Fear Street thing, but that's how it feels when I was watching it. It felt like it was just something that it was just given the name in hopes to get people to watch it. But that's actually not even true. It's just bad.
Is Cloverfield Paradox the one who has John Goodman in a bunker?
No, that's 10
No,
Cloverfield Lane. That one's good.
that one's good. Exactly.
Oh,
Cloverfield
10 Clover.
Paradox. That was the one where they dropped it immediately after the Super Bowl. They did like a shadow drop. I remember I saw the Super Bowl halftime show and they had the trailer for it and it was like streaming on Netflix straight after the Super Bowl. And everyone was like, whoa,
Um,
this is fucking crazy. And then the film was fucking horrible.
Let's just put
And
this in
I,
perspective. Bethesda did that better.
oh, absolutely they did. The reason I hate Cloverfield Paradox more though is because I'm such a simp for Cloverfield that I stayed up and watched it straight after the Super Bowl. Um,
And that's
so
late as shit for you, or early in the morning for you
I
at that point.
oh this sun was coming up by the time the end credits were rolling. So fuck that movie for making me stay up to like 5:30 in the morning to fucking watch it because I'm a sucker. But anyway, that's me.
Well, I can let's see, I can go through mine real quick. Or is that was all yours, right, Adam? I didn't want to cut you off.
Unfortunately, that is me. Yes, that's
Okay.
I've ended on a whimper with that film.
All right. So I'm going to continue my streak here, and I'm at 262 movies for the year. So I'm making my way to 600, I think. As far as what I watched recently, I actually slowed down quite a bit the last like week. Started replaying Uncharted, and then I've been reading a lot more. So haven't watched nearly as much. Like most of what I've watched has just been the Mission Impossible stuff. Um, but really a few things I will go through. Let's see. I went through a Jacques Tourneur. Have we decided that's how his last name is said? Turner, Tourner.
I can't remember if he's French or not. It's not. I always mix up. It's who's the guy that's not French? Who did Rafifi? What's his name again?
Rafifi.
Jules Dassin.
Yeah, Jules Dassin. From Boston.
Yeah.
Jacques Tournier. I'm pretty sure he is French. Jacques
No, Jacques
Tournier.
Tournier.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Turner.
Jacques
Tournier.
Tournier is French.
Tournier. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did quite a bit of a run through him. Adam, you
Nice.
recommended me Nightfall, which was fantastic. Really, really good.
Dope movie.
Yeah, like I think I was looking for like some rural noir because I think that's something a little bit more modern. So I was really glad to find something kind of older. Because I wasn't really, I don't know, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to watch. Like I kind of thought about watching Lone Star or watching A Simple Plan, and I just couldn't get myself in the mood for something because I think they're like over 2 hours long. And the great thing about good old Jock here is he doesn't have anything over 97 minutes, and Nightfall is 78 minutes.
That's why
So
he's the GOAT, man. That's why I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for about 20 years now. Jacques Tournier is the GOAT
I would
because he
just love
doesn't
to
make
think of
long
like a
movies.
11-year-old you being like Jock Tournier, goat, greatest of all
Goat,
time.
goat behavior. Goat behavior. I didn't even know what the fuck Cat People was, but I just knew in my bones that Jacques Tournier was the GOAT.
From there, I watched Anne of the Indies, which is like a pirate movie, which was decent. It was a solid little adventure. Then I did Stranger on Horseback, which is a Western he did that was also really fucking short. It's 66 minutes long, and it felt like just like a really long episode of a TV show, but
I
a
was
really
gonna say
good long episode of a TV show.
that's shorter than the average Game of Thrones episode, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that was a feature film. I guess when you had the days where you did two movies because he mostly did like the B pictures. I guess it was okay to have like a really short movie because at that point people are like, yeah, it's getting kind of late, guys. Time to go home. But could you imagine them throwing like a 66 movie out in the theaters now? People feel ripped off. Like when
Yeah,
they
it
throw
would,
episodes out on the theater, they're still like an hour and a half.
yeah, I can't imagine any film that length getting a theater run these days. Like
Yeah,
the shortest I can think of would be something that's like 80 minutes. I think 80 minutes would be like the cutoff. I can't see anything less than 80 minutes getting a theater run.
Yeah, I just especially in the era of streaming, like even but I even think somebody like Netflix, especially now that they do like ads plans, they still wouldn't want anything that short because that's less
Yeah,
ads they can throw on a movie.
that's true. It's a good point.
So, I think this is kind of a dying thing, unfortunately. But after that, I watched Appointment in Honduras, which is kind of like a African Queen heist sort of thing. It was fine. It was really, his color work is better than I think he gets credit for sometimes because he did so much in black and white. But Appointment in Honduras is really pretty looking. Rewatch Night of the Demon, still fantastic. Uh, and then I finished off with Stars in My Crown, which was a little bit schmaltzy for me for a lot of it. Like it's definitely like a family film, and it's apparently the one that he was most proud of. Like he took like I guess that's just how weird Hollywood was in like the 40s and 50s. But he agreed to take a minimum salary that he could be offered just to do this film. And then studios looked down on him for doing that. And apparently he never recovered from that because studios wouldn't take him seriously because he took less
Damn,
money.
it's weird.
Yeah, like I would love to know like the context. I'm sure there's like a cultural reason for that, but it just doesn't make sense for me. You're looking at a guy who's willing to work, and if he's passionate about it, he's willing to work for less. Like that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was how I finished that off. Honestly, it was a lot of fun. Gotten through a lot of his movies. I had to take a break though. That was a lot at once.
And where were you
Um,
catching a lot of these kind of more or less known, like Tubi or something like that for a lot of the kind of smaller, like half the ones you said there, I've never even heard of them, so I don't know where they'd even be available.
Tubi, yeah, straight up. I
Nice.
watched most of these on Tubi. I think I watched, let's see, Night of the Demon was on Tubi, Appointment in Honduras was on Tubi, Stranger on Horseback was Tubi, Anne of the Indies was Tubi, and Nightfall was Tubi. So like five of the six of them were Tubi.
And those again, more so the smaller ones, what was the quality like? Like
The
I
only
doubt
one
they've
that
had
I thought
HD
was,
scans or anything.
yeah, Stranger on Horseback was surprisingly good. I think it might be Warner Brothers who owns that one. So a lot of their older stuff is actually in pretty good condition.
Oh,
But I
okay.
seem to remember Anne of the Indies was a little rough, and Appointment in Honduras was really rough as far as quality goes.
Okay. Yeah,
But
I'm
everything
only
else
asking
was
just
pretty
because that
solid.
was the problem I had with a lot of the earlier Hitchcock stuff. Unless it's like really famous, it's pretty fucking rough. So that was just more so why I was curious.
Yeah, it does seem like at least for some of these, 'cause I assume he worked for the same studio for a lot of these, that they at least, I mean, from what I could tell, none of his stuff is lost. At least none of his stuff that we know of is lost. But I mean, he had been making movies since like the 20s or early 30s. So I mean, he'd been around for a while. His dad also made movies, so I'm sure some of his dad's is lost because he was a silent film dude. Um, but yeah, so that was a fun run. And then beyond that, I'm trying to see if there's anything I've noticed. I rewatched Thunderbolts. Well, I didn't rewatch it. I watched Thunderbolts for the first time. I watched Breakdown. I actually got through two Kurt Russell movies here recently. Speaking of Wyatt Russell, I watched Breakdown for the first time, which I don't know why it took me so long to watch it because it's definitely my dad movie type of thing.
The movie's
Um,
fun, right?
yeah, and it's kind of cool because like I feel like a lot of times with Kurt Russell, we don't get him as like an everyman. Like he's not like the normal guy. He's always like Snake Plissken or or the guy or Wyatt Earp or something like that. So it was kind of nice and breakdown for him to just kind of be like the Dustin Hoffman type character from Straw Dogs.
Yeah.
Like I don't think he's quite like that weak, but I mean it's still that same type of character where he's kind of trying to like save his wife and stuff like that. So it was a really enjoyable film, and I watched that kind of like right after I watched Soldier with him because I was going through a Superior Paul Anderson run for there for a little bit. And Soldier's great as well. I won't get too much into that because honestly that was like almost a month ago when I watched it. How long it's been since we recorded. So I don't want to say anything that's inaccurate. But beyond that, I think that covers it. Most of the other stuff is just stuff I saw in theaters. Lilo and Stitch was fine. It was a movie. And then I watched Fountain of Youth and finished off my Guy Ritchie run. So that one was fun enough. We don't have enough adventure movies like that. I guess they just don't make any money anyway. So, but yeah, that kind of got me on a run reading some Matthew Riley and playing Uncharted. So that's kind of where I've been since then. So, Chris, you can finish us up.
Nice, man. Um, Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what would the equivalent be of like a modern day adventure movie. I guess we had the Mummy series. Jurassic Park probably falls into that category somewhat.
Yeah, but then you think of like the Mummy, unless you're talking about Tom Cruise Mummy. I mean, the '99 Mummy was now 26 years ago.
No, yeah, exactly. You're right. They're rebooting Laura Croft, right?
I mean, they did a movie in 2018, and then they had a animated series on Netflix. I don't know if they're doing another live action though.
I think I read or some I think maybe Neve told me I think they are doing a new one and Sophie Thatcher is playing Laura Croft. Unless I've
Okay.
completely made that up, but I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere or I was told it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
hate
they
the
have a,
casting.
yeah,
I feel like
yeah.
Angelina Jolie was top tier for that though. Like it was just made for her. So,
Everyone was pushing, well, not everyone, but there was a big push to get Charlize Theron as the next one, but I don't think it's the perfect fit. Um, they found somebody else. It's the one who stars in Revenge, I think, is the one who's playing Laura Croft.
oh, what's her name?
Um,
Melissa.
Matilda Lutz, I think.
That's it.
I think she's the one playing that next. Oh
So it's
no, no,
either
no, no!
Sophie
I got
Thatcher or Melissa Lutz. Or
no, I got mixed up. I'm sorry. I knew Matilda Lutz was in something that I was surprised she was in. She played Red Sonja. That's what it was, which I
oh, I
was
do want to
surprised.
see that because that's done by MJ Bassett, who did Solomon Kane, which is a dope movie.
Okay, okay. Well, speaking of, you said that's it for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
So speaking of movies that are in theaters within the last few months, I've actually seen a 2025 movie now. Just want to call that out.
What movie?
Wow.
I went to the theaters, wasn't even on a plane, and I sat down for Sinners.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, man, that
Great movie.
movie, like I was not a big fan of Black Panther, and I get a lot of shit for that. Um, but I just thought it was paint by number. But man, Coogler is a hell of a filmmaker. Like Sinners is amazing. It's amazing on a couple different levels. Like I think it's just a interesting movie. Like it's never boring. He just makes like a good fun watch. Well, fun, I don't know, but like, it's kind of like a more serious From Dusk Till Dawn, right?
Yeah, that was my comparison too, was From Dusk Till Dawn. If you got to like see how the titty twister was built.
It's amazing. But the racial metaphor, I guess, or like whatever, the analogy that he makes of the what the vampires are used for and like the kind of cultural appropriation that he's just really critical of is just awesome. I don't know that I've seen a movie that's so openly proud of Black culture and critical of white culture coming in and sucking it all up.
See, I
Um,
think I did I think I do disagree with that read. I've seen that reading quite a bit, and I actually do think I disagree with it quite a bit, that that's what the film is necessarily going for.
really? Okay. Would you have a contrasting view, or you're just saying that
Um,
one doesn't fit with you?
no, I think for me, when I think of especially like a lot of Southern culture, kind of your big cultures that are really fighting here, or not fighting, but kind of defining what the culture is African American culture. That's a big part in the South, and along with Irish culture. And I felt more it was making a parallel a lot between Irish and Black culture, quite a bit, and how they kind of went through somewhat similar things, and how they dealt with that oppression in certain ways. Like, I mean, when you talk about Appalachian, um, Irish people came to Appalachia, that was kind of a big thing. That's kind of a big talking point. There was even a whole discussion about whether Irish people are considered white. So I think that I can see where people kind of get the cultural appropriation, but I don't think they're necessary. I don't think it necessarily pushes that fully. I think because I think it's more of a celebration of their similarities more than necessarily saying, Irish people stole Black culture, because I don't think that part really works quite as well.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe we can do a separate episode just on this movie because I don't. Yeah, like there's just the fact that he's choosing to use vampires for that, I think that's leaves something to be kind of um, said where they're not equal, right? But anyways, we can like, anyways, I think the what I'm hearing though is that you liked it as well, and
Oh
I
yeah, I love
did.
Sinners. Sinners is fantastic.
It's so good. And I think it's worth the praise. I'm really surprised that some people are calling it mid. Like I've heard some people like, oh, it's kind of a mid movie. I just don't see how you could leave that movie with like that reaction.
Yeah, especially like I could see somebody like criticizing like I think the movie goes on too long. Like I think there's arguments to be made for that, even though it does the length doesn't bother me. It is a long movie. I mean, it's over 2.5 hours for a horror
Yeah,
movie. We're talking about like,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Well,
such a
you
rare
guys have
thing in
just
horror.
not sold this movie to me now. So, never watching Sinners. Thank you. I'll take that off my watch list.
Yeah. Yeah, it's two
No,
hours and
Adam, you
20
have to.
minutes.
You'll feel so rejuvenated when you hear Rocky Road to Dublin.
Not when it's being played by the character is being played by an Englishman. So, no, thank you. Hire Irish actors. Thank you.
You know, there is a crazy YouTube video that people have found of Killian. It's Killian Murphy, right?
No, Jack
No.
O'Connell. They don't
What? No,
even.
no, no. I'm saying the actor's name is Killian Murphy, right?
Oh, the actor is there is an actor who exists in this world, and his name is Killian Murphy. Yes,
Okay, yes, not Cillian, it's Killian, right?
it is
So
absolutely not Cillian. No.
yeah. So there was a video that they discovered of him as a 19-year-old. Have y'all seen this? How thick his accent was? It's awesome.
No, but the only thing I ever hear about his accent is like he talks about when he plays in Peaky Blinders, he has to use subtitles, and even for the stuff he says, and I'm like, that's hilarious.
Oh, like yeah, his regular like 19-year-old accent. I don't know if there's like different parts of Ireland that are a little bit thicker, depending on where you live,
There
but it's
absolutely is.
I'm sure there are,
You
right? Yeah,
guys
yeah.
don't even realize that I put on an accent when I record. This is not
Oh,
how I
really?
talk to my friends.
Oh yeah, that's
Oh,
me and you
because
have talked about that, Adam, where like you almost feel a need to like tone your accent back.
Yeah, we should do a joke episode one time where we both just try and talk naturally and neither of us have a fucking clue what the other person is saying.
that's awesome, man. Anyways, so in conclusion, Sinners is good. Um, I watched okay, so I had some free time because June is Partners Month and Vinegar Syndrome, which means there's not any new releases to talk about, and they also delay the shipments from May because of this Black Friday sale they've been doing. So like I actually had a free night to like watch something else. So I was digging around and I watched a few other things. Like I was watching some Gamera movies recently. Those are super fun. And I was watching a V Cinema, which is like Japanese, the Japanese's answer to direct to video, but it's slightly different than the US because the studios owned some, well, had contracts with the video stores that actually rented them out. And so they knew that they would sell, let's say, $750,000 worth of tapes to the stores. And so they could then spend um, that money to make the movie. So the movies are, I mean, they're low quality in the sense of, it's definitely not a high budget production, but they're still like they're well made, and they have like filmmakers that would have been making studio films concurrently making these direct to video movies. And so the first one I saw was called Crime Hunter: Bullets of Rage, and it's great, super fun movie. It's in the Arrow set, the V Cinema set that Arrow just put out. I can't wait to dig into the special features there. And then I was like, okay, I've been meaning to dig into. Do y'all remember Vinegar Syndrome put out that 10th anniversary Lost Picture Show box set full of like,
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, it's like rarities and obscurities. It's like the most Vinegar Syndrome release ever. Because nobody had heard of any of these movies before. Like the first one was Lost for 30 years. And it's like somebody's home video. I was like, all right, time to dig into this thing. The first movie I put in is called Barbara. And sorry. So first movie I put in is called Barbara. And this thing, this movie is like, let's say it's an hour and a half. I think it's 97 minutes, and there's 90 minutes of people doing everything except for showing penetration. Like they're writhing all over each other. But while this is going on, there's a narration over it of just like people having a normal conversation. So there's no like sex audio. It's just people on screen in this like hippie kind of commune, like free love style threesomes and just all sorts of madness. But the audio over it is just people having a conversation about like immigration or like different topics of the day. I was like, what am I watching? And it's kind of awesome in the sense of just thinking like, how in the world does this movie exist? But yeah, that was I thought y'all would appreciate that I got to watch some porn at least.
I mean, I
It
wouldn't
was
expect any less.
Mhm.
it was unintentional this time. That's it. That's really what I've seen.
All
I've
right.
been work has been crazy, and those are the major ones I've seen outside of these Mission Impossible movies.
Well, I guess that means we should move on to our feature presentations. Um, so picking up from where we left off last episode, obviously we watched Mission Impossible 1, 2, and 3. We're going to be talking about the next kind of three films in the series before next episode will cap it off with the kind of double kind of end quote unquote ending of the series. So we're going to pick up in 2011. This is a film by Brad Bird. So this is the last Mission Impossible movie not made by Christopher McQuarrie, who will then take over from here on out after this. Um, there's this letterboxed thing is so fucking long. Okay,
I can
here
do
we
it
go.
for you. I mean, let's just make this simple. We can just copy it, like take the audio and copy and paste this. Ethan Hunt is framed for something, forced to go rogue, and to complete an impossible mission.
You know what? You fucking nailed it. Let's copy paste that for everything else for the next for this episode. Um, yeah, so this was I'm pretty sure this was the first Mission Impossible movie that I saw. It's definitely the first one I saw in theaters. And I'm pretty sure it's the first one that I like saw, and then I kind of caught the other ones just like on TV growing up or in passing and stuff like that. Um, and this I alluded to this I think in the last episode or maybe when we kind of introduced this series before we started it, that for me this is kind of where modern Mission Impossible really starts. Um, both in terms of style and tone, and especially for this is the first Mission Impossible movie that really had the kind of buzz around what crazy shit is Tom Cruise going to do in this Mission Impossible movie. This was the first time there was a lot of media buzz around, a particular stunt, which that became kind of unique selling points for the rest of the movies, and I'm sure we'll obviously touch on those as we go through them. Um, but Tom Cruise scaling the Burj Khalifa, um, was like the first thing where it was like big news that like Tom Cruise is making a Mission Impossible movie and he's doing the fucking craziest thing ever. He's scaling the tallest building in the world. Just for this movie, no stuntman involved. It's actually him, doing this. And that's one of the main reasons for me that this is kind of really just kind of is this is modern Mission Impossible. It's about crazy set pieces, and we'll figure the rest out in post, which works really good for me. I'm a big fan of that setup. Out of the ones we're going to talk about today, this is the one I like the least, for a couple of different reasons. But this is also a step up on the first three films, in my opinion, as well. I think this, like I said, I just prefer this tone that this film brings across compared to the first three, which are obviously very different films. Each one is very different from one another. I feel from here on out, the tone stays very consistent, and this is the tone of Mission Impossible movies that I like. There's just some other reasons why I don't like it as much as some of the ones we're going to talk about later. But I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts because for me, Mission Impossible is this style, and what we're going to talk about today. This is Mission Impossible to me. So obviously, with you guys going into these fresh and off the back of three very different films, I'm interested to hear what you guys are gonna say about them.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think I have to imagine we're all going to be on somewhat of a similar page with this. This is light years ahead of the first three movies, first of all. Um, I think y'all probably liked one a little bit more than I did. I mean, I didn't not like it, but it's fine. Um, for me. But like this is where it's starting to feel almost like for me, it's like almost starting to feel a little bit more like a Bond movie or like just a little bit more of like a polished, summer blockbuster kind of thriller. Like they're really going for it, and I think they nail it. They still pull off enough tricks to make it, and like visual tricks and plot twists to make it a Mission Impossible movie. But like, I think the characters have more depth in this. I think everything just kind of comes together for me in this in a much more real way. But you, Zach?
I'm yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna echo like a lot of that. I mean, it is cool to kind of compare these to the first three. I guess as far as like of the first three, which is this the most similar of? It's probably gonna be three, even though these are much more lighthearted. It's like it's taking the lightheartedness of the first one, but putting in the more like modern polish to a degree of the third one, which is a little bit more faster paced and a little bit more action heavy. Um, which I guess makes sense because I think Abram stays on as producer. I guess I know he did
Yeah.
these three. I assume he does all of them after three. Like he's involved, his
Yeah.
Bad Robot's involved, which is obvious when this opens up with Josh Holloway, which nobody told me about.
I did. I told you.
Did
I
you? I
said
just
you.
forgot then.
Well, I didn't explicitly state Josh Holloway. I just said you would like the opening scene.
I did, and then he died, and then I was like, well, shit.
Yeah.
So no, but it was really cool. Like I think this is definitely my least favorite of the three we're going to talk about, but honestly,
Mhm.
I don't think there's like a huge jump between them personally. Like I kind of gave them similar ratings. And I think it's just very consistent from one to the other, which is good. I think I would I am curious how I'm gonna feel like with the McQuarrie's is that how you say his last name, McQuarrie?
Macquarie, yeah.
Yeah, so we got Brad Bird here, and it made sense for McQuarrie to do five and six since it has the same villain throughout. I am curious because I did like different directors taking on each one, how I'll feel with him doing two more with the last ones, if I kind of
Hmm.
like feel a little tired of that. But I think the move between Brad Bird to him was probably the least jarring of any of
Yeah,
the moves.
I agree with that.
Like because the first four feel so distinctively different from one another.
Yeah, they're very different movies. And I think that probably helps with the consistency of quality as well, that they kind of, Brad Bird found a tone here that had a great balance, and then, Chris McQuarrie picked up on that and kind of kept it going. He didn't try and do a drastic change, when you compare like one and two and then two and three, there's such huge stylistic differences between each of the first three movies that it's only natural that you're going to see differences in quality as well. So having finding a really good balance and tone, which I think this film it's definitely one of the good things this film does is that it finds that balance and tone, and then having that kind of, find that formula that works where we have a very basic plot with a MacGuffin, and then we work that plot around a bunch of set pieces, and that's the same. It's like all of the films from here on out basically have the same structure. We
And
establish our MacGuffin, we have a bunch of cool set pieces. Ethan Hunt saves the day, job done, in and out, everyone's happy. And
and at least
it's a
one
winning
big
formula,
stunt, right?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and at least one big stunt, right? There's like a theme in
That's
every
yeah.
movie.
There's always yeah, exactly. There has to be the patented crazy batshit set piece that Tom Cruise is doing, and
Yeah.
it's a unique selling point to the series at this stage. From this film onwards. That's what I was saying, kind of at the start with the whole Burj Khalifa climb. That became the unique selling point of the Mission Impossible movies, as opposed to every other kind of action thriller, especially in the 2010s when they were dime a dozen. the stunt work that the Tom Cruise does and his commitment to wowing the audience and just creating something that you would never see any other major actor even attempt, let alone do and pull off. His commitment to that is such a unique selling point for the series where, up until this most recent one, that it was always about what's Tom Cruise going to do next? What batshit thing is he going to do in the next Mission Impossible movie? And that started really with this one. Obviously, he did a lot of stunt work in the first three, but especially like in number two with the climb and the motorcycles and stuff, he did a lot of stunt work in number two, especially. But it really became a cornerstone to the franchise. The one major set piece, which in this film is the Burj Khalifa, and we can kind of talk about the major set piece in each of them as we go along. But yeah, the Burj Khalifa climb was definitely it. Um, I said this one's kind of out of the three we're going to talk about. This is my least favorite. I suppose I kind of mentioned why because I've said stuff I like. The major issue I have with this film, as opposed to pretty much every other Mission Impossible except for maybe two, is that if you sat down beside me now and put a gun to my head and said, Adam, just tell me the name of the bad guy.
I'm glad you brought up the bad guy.
Just tell me his name. You don't need to tell me who he is, why he wants it. You don't need to tell me just tell me his name. I'd be a dead man. I don't have a fucking. I've seen this movie at least, and I'm being conservative when I say at least three times. And I say I'm being conservative because I have it logged in Letterboxd twice, and obviously I saw it in theaters when I was, fucking 16 when it came out. So I've probably seen it at least two more times in between then. So I've probably seen it at least four or five times, and I could not tell you the bad guy's name. I'm not even 100% sure what he looks like.
Well, the only reason I know him, and I thought this was kind of just a sad connection, that the two villains between three and four have both passed away. Um, because he plays the main villain in the first John Wick.
Oh, okay. I've never seen
He's
any of those
Vigo
movies,
in the
so
first John, and he's such a great character in that. And that's just 3 years later. But yeah, this dude absolutely no personality. Like the jump he makes at the end was the only time, probably the only thing about him I can tell you about him is
yeah.
when he jumps at the end.
Yeah, other than that, that's a thing that I think lets this film down, especially compared to the next two, that both have a great villain. And obviously coming off the back of Philip Seymour Hoffman's performance in three, where he was fantastic in that as the villain. So having this kind of very milquetoast, generic guy who wants it's nuclear codes, right? I'm pretty sure it's nuclear
Yeah.
codes. It's always
It's
nuclear
always
codes.
nuclear
So
codes.
yeah, but
Um,
this one is about something about deforestation or something. I don't know.
what?
Nuclear-
That can't be
It's really
right.
like who gives a shit? World's gonna end
Um,
if Ethan Hunt does not do some dangerous ass stunt.
oh no. I'm sorry. Not deforestation.
This is
This
when the
is the
Kremlin blows up, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
this is
yeah,
where the
Okay, just
Kremlin
making
blows
sure.
up.
I watched all these back to back to back, so I wanted to be sure.
That's fair
yeah,
enough if
yeah,
you
yeah.
get confused. Yeah, this is when the Kremlin blows up. I don't remember why. Oh, I think it's to frame Tom Cruise.
We
I
we
think
They
promise
have
guys that these movies are good, even if we
they're
can't
really
remember
good. They're
anything
so
that
good.
happened.
no, but
It's
they're
about
like
it's like a roller coaster. When you get off a roller coaster, you don't remember every turn and every time you go upside down. You just know you had a good time.
Yeah, that's right.
oh no, this is the one about the Russian nuclear codes so from the
Yeah,
submarine.
but
Remember because this is the one where he fights on that car elevator, right?
yeah, that's the end. That's the kind of the end part where they're in the cool car elevator thing.
Yeah. And they have to get like this is and they have that magnet that Simon Pegg drives around. He drives Michael Bourne around in where he like or not Michael Bourne, but the second Bourne Renner, Jeremy
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 Renner,
Renner.
Renner.
where he like keeps bumping into stuff and it's like he's working in an oven and all that stuff. No, I mean these are good action sequences.
Can
Oh,
I
they
just
are
note
for
you were talking
sure.
about the? Oh, sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say if you kind of want to put in perspective like how bad the villain is in this movie, Tom Wilkinson, who is not named in this movie and is in it for 5 minutes, I can remember more distinctly.
Who
Like,
did he play?
and he doesn't even get a name. He's like the only IMF dude who never gets a name.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah. But I think the point though of like why we're kind of half joking, but honestly really can't remember all the details is you don't watch this. It's not like we're talking about a Kurosami movie, right? Where you're like just dissecting the plot and like you're really thinking about why he put certain images in there. I mean, these are like fun popcorn flicks, right?
Hmm.
And I think these are like they're very entertaining. Like this is a very entertaining movie, and then it's kind of that's it. Like you just
And
kind
I
of have a
think it's
good time.
because they take themselves like the right amount of serious too. Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously they're very light for the most part. They have their moments, but like it doesn't get to the point of something like one of the lesser MCU movies that every time there's like something serious that goes on, they kind of undercut it. Where this one, when the stakes are high, they do keep them high.
yeah,
And tone as well, I think, is important to distinctive. And I know this is going to alienate you, Zach, because you haven't seen James Bond movies. But around this time, this is when James Bond was going very dark and gritty and very serious and very dour, and
Mm.
everything was just super serious all the time. Whereas this kind of has the tones of like 90s Bond movies, which were silly and a good time, and they had kooky gadgets. And Mission Impossible's kind of picked up that baton when James Bond kind of dropped in and wanted to become more serious, almost kind of like fucking art house movies to a degree. Mission Impossible was like, no, fuck that. We're having dope action sequences. We're having just nonsense plots, but it doesn't matter because you're having a good fucking time. There's weird gadgets that make no sense, and none of it matters because you're just having a good time. This is like to kind of bring back to last summer. This was like these movies are like if the Fast and Furious movies were actually fucking good.
yeah.
It's this they are just a great time. They're a great way to spend 2 hours. You're on the edge of your seat. You're watching just great action directing, great stunt work. You're watching Tom Cruise just be a fucking man of the movies. And I know we said this last episode. Tom Cruise, not a good human being, but fuck me, he is a great man of the movies. He's
And
just
I do think he kind of opened the door for something like, I talked about John Wick, but they always bring up Keanu's always in frame. And I really feel like that's such a big thing here is you can like get so many angles like on these stunts because it's actually crews doing them.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Um,
That's
it's
true.
great. Like I said,
So
my major issue with this film is purely just down to the villain being just very just like just completely underwritten, bland, uninteresting. Um, the lack of major inclusion of Ving Rhames, I think, hurts it as well. I know he is in it very briefly at the end, but losing Ving Rhames from the core team, I think just Ving Rhames just brings a great energy. I love Luther as a character.
Mhm.
So I think the lack of Ving Rhames does bring it down a little bit. I know obviously Simon Pegg stepped up to become a bigger character in this, and he obviously continues on for the rest of the movies. Simon Pegg has a good energy. I like Simon Pegg a lot. But no Ving Rhames hurts it. The character Paula Patton, who plays Jane, um,
is she the one on
I'm
their team or the assassin?
she's on their team.
Okay.
She's not I don't really know much about her. I'm sorry, but she's just not very good at acting.
Yeah, her fight with
So
the other chick is pretty good. That's like her highlight in the film.
yeah, and everything else is just not great. The other chick is Leah Sado, who's a very accomplished and well-respected French actress. She was in Dune Part Two most recently, but she's been in a ton of shit. She's probably most. She got her big break in Blue is the Warmest Color.
Yeah.
That
Oh
was
yeah, I
like
did see that when I looked her up. I did see that. I remember
that
that.
was like her big break, but like she's been in tons of shit. She's a very well respected actress who has a very small part in this, but she's great anyway. But I the supporting characters going forward, I think, are a lot better than this supporting cast. I'm not a big Jeremy Renner guy. He's fine.
I like his character better, and when we get to Rogue Nation, I like his character a bit better there.
I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, he's fine.
This one, I think it's because you don't really get to know anything about him till like what,
The
like two
very
thirds
end,
through the
basically.
movie. Like
Yeah.
And I actually do like that scene where, he keeps saying he's an analyst or whatever, and then Cruz just like pulls a gun out on him. I was like, okay, I do like Ethan Hunt's character, even though I do find it kind of interesting that I feel like Ethan Hunt just changes with whatever tone the movie is. Like I don't know, like it's obviously just it's Tom Cruise, it's his big thing, and it's always Tom Cruise. But I don't know, like the one thing I will say, like I don't ever feel like Ethan Hunt is always the exact same character. They always feel a little bit different just on tone. Like this one
Yeah,
doesn't feel like the same Ethan Hunt from 3.
I
Yeah.
guess that's just down a different direction, I
It could
suppose.
be, and I just thought it was kind of fascinating because like I think back to like Ethan Hunt in 1, and I think about Ethan Hunt in Fallout, and obviously there's been a big time difference, but it's like I don't even know if sometimes I feel like they're the exact same person. It just kind of feels like it just as Tom Cruise's went on, it's kind of changed. I don't know. I can't really explain it. It just feels like slightly different to me.
No, I get what you mean. His character is it's basically a vehicle for the plot as well. So
Yeah.
he behaves as necessary for the plot to move forward.
I did
I
want
really
to
think
bring
that's it.
up because I actually did like this change where, he gets married in the third one and they kind of go over his wife's like what happened with that. And from my understanding, as someone who hasn't watched Bond, but just you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically the big thing with Bond is there's a different like female fatale like every film, right? Like it's kind of the big thing.
Especially in the
Yeah.
early ones, yeah, but it's pretty good. The Bond girl is a trope where there's always
Right.
like a female character and it's different every film a lot of the time, yeah.
I did appreciate in this film that they're kind of avoiding that and they're avoiding his wife is threatened every single movie. And they kind of
Right.
have an explanation of how they do that. I really think that helps streamline the plot of what people actually give a shit about.
Yeah, because ultimately, like Ethan Hunt is just a different character to James Bond. I feel like Ethan Hunt's character is much more of a globalist. He, like, yeah, he'll save the people he loves and cares about, but like he's definitely much more of a big picture guy than Bond ever was.
Which is also kind of interesting because it's kind of the opposite of what kind because I thought it was interesting when Alec Baldwin kind of said the opposite in the next film.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose it's just one of those things where again his motivations kind of fluctuate depending on what's
Yeah.
needed in each movie or scene or whatever.
Right.
Um, yeah. And it'll be fun having this conversation after you guys watch the most recent one, because there's a lot of stuff in the most recent one that's I don't want to give any spoilers for because you guys haven't seen it yet, I'm guessing, but there's a lot of interesting creative choices, not with like how characters or the plot or anything, but how it's presented. I'll be able to get into it in more detail, but we can keep this energy and we can keep this conversation going in the next episode as well.
Yeah. I have but I don't know if we're necessarily ready to like wrap up this movie, but I feel like we're getting close to the end here. I want to, I have an idea as I was watching this. And I want to see if y'all think I'm crazy. People give Tom Cruise a lot of shit because he is crazy on Oprah and he says weird things and he's like weird dude. And
Yeah.
I'm all on board for that. Um, I certainly do it too. But watching this movie, well, watching these three movies, but starting with this one, I think I'm almost ready to put him in the category of like a Charlie Chaplin or a Buster Keaton or this guy, Jackie Chan, one of these people that just really understands how to use like physicality and like practical effects in movies to be extremely entertaining.
Mhm.
And I want to see what y'all think about that.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, like I think Cruise has such a screen presence. Like and he does that in so many different ways. And I think it's weird because I almost don't think the guy always takes himself as seriously as sometimes I think we assume he does. Because I think back like to Les Grossman in like Tropic Thunder or something like that.
Yeah,
And he was just
yeah.
like insistent that he wanted to have really big hands.
Hmm.
Like it's just weird stuff like that. And you're like, okay, he's got like some sort of vision of what he wants. And he's
Yeah.
really good at executing that.
Well, I mean, he's when he like Magnolia is a good example. Tropic Thunder is certainly one. But like when he needs to play big, I mean, he does it flawlessly, right? Like I mean, he's great at playing big. So yeah, he has a great range too.
Yeah, Cruz is a great actor. He's underrated as an actor, I think now these days. You kind of forget how fucking good he was in the 80s and the 90s.
Well,
Like his
especially like I think back Interview with a Vampire, and I'm like, he is the reason that movie's any good.
yeah,
Like he carries the shit out of that movie.
he's an incredibly good actor. He's one I'm normally someone who can sometimes struggle to separate art from artist, but he's one I will happily separate art from artist all day long. I don't give a shit that he's the front of an evil globalist corporate, he's a fucking head, the global mouthpiece for an evil corporation that pretends to be a religion.
Yeah,
Um, his movies fucking rule.
yeah,
So, it is what it is. I'll happily separate that art from the artist.
cool. Well, that was not my big point from that. I just had that moment, and I was like, wait a minute, this guy's like all timer kind of in this
Uh,
area.
and wait till you see the next two films that we're going to talk about next time. Some of the stunt work he does in those is incredible as well.
And
He
he's like
doesn't
90 years old now, which is even
he doesn't
crazier.
let up. Yeah, he's not quitting. Not he doesn't quit anyway. All right, we move on to Rogue Nation.
Yeah, I'll just make the last comment that him in a
Hmm.
hood is actually kind of cool. They should have kept that like going after this. Past
Cool.
Ghost Protocol.
Fair
I kind of
enough.
liked it.
Cool.
We'll take that on board. Yeah, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. So that's 2015. As mentioned, this is the first of the Christopher McQuarrie Mission Impossible films, which continue to today. He's the kind of lead writer and director and kind of co-producer alongside J.J. Abrams and obviously Tom Cruise himself. It seems as though they've created a good bond. Him and Christopher McQuarrie, they just kind of get the vision for the series. They just get what they want to do. They just work really well together. So it makes sense that he's been the only one to direct more than one of these films, because they just seem to be a really good match. Before we get talking about the ins and outs of Rogue Nation, here's a pop quiz. Tell me the Hitchcock reference in Rogue Nation. Go.
I feel like I should have been like told ahead of time. Shit.
No.
It's got to be in the Opera House, is it?
We're getting warm. That's a good shout out.
I feel like Chris, you've seen more Hitchcock than me, so I feel like you have a better chance of getting that.
Well, because of Vinegar Syndrome, I've certainly seen more cock. Um, but as it pertains to Hitchcock, oh man, you got me thinking now. If is it a musical cue or is it
No,
a
you're in the ballpark. So in the Hitchcock movie, well, movies, I guess, The Man Who Knew Too Much,
The
the set
remake or the original?
both of them
Okay.
in because Hitchcock made both. So in both of them, there's a key scene where there's an assassination attempt during I can't remember if it's an opera or if it's just some kind of other just concert
yeah,
where
yeah,
the shot is going to go in line with a crescendo in the music. So it's basically the same as
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So it's in the movie The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's essentially the exact same um, plot point where they're waiting for the music to crescendo so that they could do the shot without it being heard by everyone else in the audience. So there you go. There's a Hitchcock reference. Just wanted to get that out there. It's not only Brian De Palma that can do Hitchcock. Christopher
I
McQuarrie
bet,
can do
I bet
Hitchcock.
De Palma watched it and said, "Motherfucker, I didn't do that."
Why didn't I think of that? Son of a bitch. Um, I suppose just to go the plot on this one, it is slightly different. Ethan Hunt has still been framed for something he has not done and still goes on the run to clear his name. However, it's nothing to do with nuclear codes. It's about eradicating the Syndicate, an international and highly skilled rogue organization committed to destroying the IMF. So we do have a slightly different plot with a much stronger villain and a much stronger supporting cast because this is the film that introduces one of my favorite characters in the series, Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa Faust, the MI6 agent slash assassin that Tom Cruise ends up kind of working with during this film. Um,
Do you think they're mad they didn't wait to introduce MI6 until the next one? Like it just feels
uh,
like a missed opportunity.
I'm not going to comment on that pun. Um, no. Um, so yeah, look, Road Nation. Like I think for me, this is my second favorite of the whole series. This is again, it just kind of kicks all the ideas in Ghost Protocol in terms of how they want to make these movies. Like by ideas, I don't necessarily mean like themes or anything, but like how they want to make these movies. What how they want to structure them and what the tone is going to be. I think they just kind of took that from Ghost Protocol and just kicked it up a gear while also just drastically improving the villain. Solomon Lane. I know his name. I know Solomon Lane. I remember Solomon Lane's name because he's a fucking great villain, played by Sean Harris, who's a very, very good actor. Um, and yeah, I just think this film is it's a really good time. Like I said, I really like Rebecca Ferguson's character. Ilsa Faust is introduced. Jeremy Renner has more to do in this, I guess, in this film because he's actually an agent, and he kind of gets to play a bit of a wild card character because he is both working against and but also with the IMF or Tom Cruise's group, I guess, throughout it. So his role is a bit more interesting. We have Alec Baldwin, I guess, if we're talking about somewhat problematic people. Alec
He didn't have to hold a
Baldwin,
gun in this movie, so everyone
no,
was fine.
it's okay. Everyone survived. But the one thing that really, the one thing that really that I love in this film, which again to kind of pick up from what I said in the last one about set pieces, the opening sequence where Tom Cruise is strapped to the side of a plane is just fucking insane. Because that's
Yeah.
not a green screen. That's not done. That is Tom
Right.
Cruise literally strapped to the side of a fucking plane as it's taking
Right.
off.
Right.
Absolute crazy motherfucker. Just like, I can only imagine they're sitting in like a board, like a concept room, like, drawing up a plot and drawing up ideas for set pieces. And, Tom Cruise is like, oh, yeah, wouldn't it be cool if, like, I infiltrated a plane as it was taking off? And they're like, yeah, okay, we can build a set. And no, no, no. We don't need a set. Just attach me to the fucking plane and take off. What are you building sets for?
That
Uh,
sounds expensive.
that sounds expensive. Fuck this. Just get a plane, get some fucking wires, and just put me on. It's all good. I'll be okay. It's fine. Just don't tell the
Right.
insurance guys.
I assume every time they write a script, the studio's insurance agent has to be there in the room,
Well,
just so Tom Cruise can yell at them.
the running joke with these later Mission Impossible movies is that they don't have a script. They write set pieces and then they figure the script out in the editing room.
Oh
They'll
yeah, it's
figure out the
that.
story
Yeah, I
later.
figured that much, honestly, especially in these later ones.
You don't need a story. Just do a bunch of shit in different places in the world and then just think of a reason to get them from one to the other. That's just so much
Yeah.
that's much more economical.
Which I was
Yeah.
reading that apparently he had that world record for an actor like holding their breath underwater for a scene for like 6 minutes.
Yeah,
And then I read that it was beaten by Kate Winslet for Avatar 2. And I was like, I
it
wonder if
was.
Tom Cruise is bitter as shit about that.
He absolutely fucking is. You just know.
Yeah,
You
you
just
know.
know. You just know
He
he's
got beat out by
annoyed.
Kate Winslet.
Yeah. Which that
Also
scene
good
as
one.
well, that underwater scene is
It's my
just
favorite scene
like
of the movie
I've
by
seen
far.
this film like 3 or 4 times and it's still so fucking tense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of watching that time go down and you just think, fuck. And then he gets knocked off by the thing going around just out of nowhere. It's really well directed that sequence. And like even though I know what happens next, 'cause I've seen it, it's still just really fucking tense. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really great sequence. It's almost in a way it's more of a harken back to like the first Mission Impossible, where they have the scene where they break into the CIA and
Oh
this
yeah,
that
I
tense
didn't put that
moment.
together. Yeah.
It's very much more like that kind of lower key, you
Yep.
know, kind of a scene of the original Mission Impossible, whereas everything else is very bombastic and, you know, jumping off planes and motorcycles and explosions. This is just very much more kind of old school espionage, just be really fucking sneaky and quick and breaking in and being, you know, it's very much old school in that sense, and incredibly tense, an incredibly tense scene.
Well, I remember
It,
like feeling like I could, my chest was getting tight watching it because like I've been, like everybody knows that feeling of holding your breath a few seconds too long. So
I
like they
made a
capture
joke
that
to
for me.
Neve when we were watching it together, and I said I'm gonna hold my breath now when Tom Cruise jumps in, and I'm gonna see how long I can last. I
Nice.
did not last anywhere near Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
well, I think what like especially that scene, I think this is something I've noticed throughout the series does really well, and I think especially in the last two we've watched, well, Rogue Nation and Fallout, is there's so much going on at the same time where I think the tension does that. Sure, they do the countdown thing, like oh, like I think later in the movie you have where a bomb is stopped with like 19th seconds left,
Yeah,
like or
exactly.
19th of a
Yeah.
second left.
Right, right.
And sure, you get that, and that's pretty basic, type of thing. But the thing I love about like the underwater scene is the time is really Simon Pegg's character like walking through the door, and that just feels
Yes.
so simple. And that timing, and
Mm.
they do it again in fall, kind of as the climax of Fallout. So we'll get to that when we get to that. Um, but yeah, I think that's just like really smart. Like as much as they're writing like later, they're really making the script later. It feels a lot smarter because of things like that. It feels like they have all these pieces, and this was meticulously thought out, and it's almost like a magic trick in that way.
And it adds to the tension as well because it's not just about Tom Cruise holding its breath. It's like you know that if Tom Cruise doesn't get this or Ethan Hunt doesn't get this done, then Simon Pegg is dead. Benji is dead
And
instantly.
and then even at the end, it's like a 50-50 shot when he finally gets back. I like that too. He has no fucking clue which one he's throwing in there.
Yeah,
He's like
exactly.
50-50 shot. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Hope you don't die, Benji. At least I'll never know if you do, because I'll also be dead. Um, which is something that that's always ends up being the case with these Mission Impossible movies towards the end, where it's like they just they always end up separated, and it's like they just trust Ethan Hunt to get it done. And even in Fallout, they're like, "How do we know he did it?" It's like we just gotta trust he's fucking did it. We
And
just
basically, it's
need.
like it's Ethan Hunt. He got it.
Yeah,
We're
he's done
good.
it. We just need to do our part and we just gotta trust that he'll do it. So that's pretty much the same with this, you know, Benji's walking in there, just got hope that Ethan Hunt will be able to pull off this fucking crazy scheme to get in and get him in and out of the building safely. Um, so I think the direction of this film, and it's funny to kind of say this because obviously Brad Bird is very respected, obviously more so in the animation community. Whereas Chris McQuarrie, like he has only made these Mission Impossible movies. He made the Jack Reacher movie with Tom Cruise, and then the only other film he made was back in 20 or directed, I should say, was back in the year 2000. He made a film called The Way of the Gun.
Oh,
Um,
great movie.
Yeah.
I did not know he made
okay.
that.
I
Yeah, that
had
was right
I've
after. Okay.
I had never even heard of it until I looked up his filmography. So it's good. It's a good film.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think they're just about to put out like a 4K steelbook from Lionsgate or something. So it's
Okay.
it's getting like a re-release and everything, probably because of Mission
I was
Impossible.
gonna
So
say maybe it's getting re-evaluated or whatever now that you know Chris McQuarrie's become an actual big name off the back of
that's
these
such
Mission
a big
Impossible movies.
skip in like directing credits, like to do
Yeah,
something
2000 to
2000 and then
2012. Yeah.
yeah, that's
But
wild.
but I
That's
mean, do y'all know like I mean he was the screenwriter for Usual Suspects, right? And
Yeah, I
that
remember reading that.
that movie was just I that was just like a cultural phenomenon, right? Because that's one of those ones like that was the first time where I remember like getting death threats if you spoil the movie.
which he
Because
was the
it's
speaking of writing, he wrote like Ghost Protocol, right? Or at least like rewrote it or something.
oh, I don't know, maybe
I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Maybe
I mean I'm sure
uncredited work or
we
something.
could get that answer, I'm sure. But
Well, I thought I
um
read something like he has a line where like Jeremy Renner says something like next time I'm going to be the one that like seduces the guy or something, and he was like sure that wasn't going to get in the script.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the only
Right.
reason I was thinking maybe that's the one. But like I said, that could have been the fifth one, and I don't remember now. So I think it was the
Yeah.
fourth one.
Yeah. But I mean, he's been like a golden child in a sense, because after that came out, he got a little bit of money, and then he got Ryan Felipe to be like completely off character and weigh the gun. He's so good in that movie. You get to see a different side of him.
I'm gonna add that
Um,
to my watch list because I'd never even
yeah.
heard of it. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
glad to
think
hear
I
it's
actually
good.
think you would like it, Adam. I do.
It's got a little bit of a similar vibe to like all these ones that are coming out, like Snatch or like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like it's not quite like that, but it's got a similar vibe, like fast editing, kind of witty dialogue a little bit. Like it's in that kind of vein a little.
Yeah, I know it. I know the type you're talking about. Okay.
It's good though. Yeah, I don't Rogue Nation. We've been talking about it a lot. I mean, this one, the best scene is underwater. So for me, this is, I think you could probably say a lot of things about Fallout of why people put it as their number one a lot, and I know we're gonna get there. But for me, this is my favorite. This, even though the Syndicate, I think, is a little bit of a cheesy like villain organization, like it's a little campy. I think that actually adds to the movie for me. Zach, to your point, like they take themselves seriously, but not too seriously. Like there's always a little bit of those, Marvel style kind of jokes in there when they're back together, and like I don't know, like I think they strike that balance well. And to me, this is the peak of the series, just from an overall enjoyment perspective. Although I think the next movie I'll talk about, there's other areas I think it peaks.
Well,
Um,
I think you talk about jokes. It kind of reminds me of the beginning, and kind of a setup joke where with Jeremy Renner's character, where every time they ask him questions at the panel, it's like I cannot confirm or deny until I have permission from the secretary or
yeah,
something. And that
yeah,
is a
yeah,
joke that's set up at the beginning and it pays off at the end. And I was like, that's
right,
an actual smart joke.
yeah, yeah,
Like it's a thought out joke. It isn't just like a quick quipped and
Just
to
good
undermine
screenwriting.
anything. Yeah, yeah. Like it's almost like a real screenwriter wrote it. It's but you know what, Chris, I won't disagree with you because I have actually been going back and forth because I finished Fallout like a few minutes before, maybe like an hour before we got out on here, and I don't know if I like five or six better. Um, because there's things about the Fallout that I like a lot, but I don't know. They strike such a cool tone here. Like I'm kind of just repeating what you're saying, but I don't know. There's something like I think for this one, it almost feels like where I was talking about like the treasure hunting, globe trotting things that I've kind of been into.
yeah,
This reminded me of that kind of tone a lot. Like I was like, sure, the MacGuffin is all espionage stuff, but I mean, like make a small change that they're looking for a lost city, and this movie is like nothing different.
right,
And
yeah.
I like that feel through it.
Me too. So let's get into it so we can properly talk about the difference, because I think I have a lot to say on what you just said, but um unless there's anything else on Rogue Nation, let's get into Fallout Boy.
Fallout Boy. I'll talk about Fallout Boy. We can.
I
You have a
thought that
spare
would perk
hour?
yours up.
Um, yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout. So this is 2018. This was when I actually started taking Mission Impossible movies seriously. Um, I'd seen, as I mentioned, Ghost Protocol when it came out. Probably saw Rogue Nation in passing, saw the other ones in passing. When Fallout came out, this is when I got like fully indoctrinated into the cult of Ethan Hunt. Um, and I've been happily there ever since. Um, so again, just kind of the basic plot overview. It's the same shit. Um, Ethan Hunt loses some nukes, and he has to hunt them. He has to get them back, but he doesn't really have any help because they think that he's moonlighting as an arms dealer. Yeah, that's the plot. It's not important. Um,
And we have our first returning villain.
First returning villain,
Yep.
because Solomon Lane is fucking dope. You know,
He is a really good villain.
he's a great villain. He's so good. Sean Harris's voice is just so fucking good for a
I did
villain.
want to talk about his voice because I don't know. I don't know how they do trailers. Like if y'all get the exact same ones we do, and it might be that thing you were talking about earlier, where this was kind of the era where things were darker. I always remember one of the trailers for Fallout being like they would use like Sean Harris's voice and like this really like solemn music with one of the more depressing like Imagine Dragon songs. And so before I never seen a Mission Impossible movie, so I was like, these seem really depressing, and I never watched it.
You didn't know what you were missing out on.
No, and I mean, I
Um,
do think this one's a little bit darker than 4 and 5, but not like
Yeah.
yeah,
extension.
because but with the title Fallout doesn't just refer to nuclear fallout. It really does refer to the fallout of Ethan Hunt as a character and what his decision, like the fallout of his. I think I can't remember the fucking line that Sean Harris says. It's a great line, but the fallout of his intent or his actions or something like that, just the way it affects the people, not just in his life but also kind of globally as well.
Right.
So this is a almost a more introspective. It's not it is equal parts kind of globe-trotting adventure action movie, but there is a lot of introspective stuff in here that we haven't really seen, I guess, since the first one, which is obviously a lot lower key and is a lot more about Ethan Hunt's kind of personal journey. There's a lot of that stuff in here as well. There's a lot of things that he needs to kind of wrestle with, both with his, previous relationship with Michelle Monaghan's character, with his relationship with his friends and how his decisions impact them. Um, and even like smaller stuff, where obviously, as we know, as he kind of pretends to be this arm dealer, he ends up in a situation where, he has to decide whether he's going to harm innocent police officers in order to keep his cover. That's pretty serious stuff. It's stuff that we haven't really seen his character have to deal with or think about. He's never really had to deal with the consequences of his actions before. Whereas this film really does kind of put a bit of a spotlight on that, which is it's really interesting because it doesn't, for me anyway, the overall tone is not very is still not overly different, but it just sprinkles these little things in there that kind of make you think about him more as a more in-depth character rather than purely a vehicle for our enjoyment. Um, but it has the typical Mission Impossible stuff in here as well, um, in terms of set pieces and things like that. The jumping out of the airplane when him and Henry Cavill, jump out, do the skydive. Fucking great scene. A lot of great fight sequences in this film as well, especially the one in the bathroom where Henry Cavill famously reloads his arms. You know,
Awesome scene.
halfway. So good. Reloading your arms. That's the fucking coolest thing you can do in the middle of a fight. Love that scene. And just speaking of Henry Cavill, the surrounding cast in this film is probably the best in the series. Because obviously you
Yeah.
have the full return of Ving Rhames as a kind of full character now. Well, but back, as one of the main characters, who was sorely missed, as I said, um, last time or in Ghost Protocol. Um, Sean Harris obviously back as well. Angela Bassett is great as the CIA director. Um, Vanessa Kirby, who is fantastic as the White Widow, the kind of arms dealer, middleman between everything. She's a great addition to the cast. She's going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie, which I look forward to. She's a very good actress.
Yeah. Can we talk
Um,
about her for 1 second? Well,
we definitely can.
finish making your point and let's come back because
Yeah, well, that was my point really. It's just I think the surrounding cast is great. I think the balance between the normal Mission Impossible crazy stuff, but with also a bit more introspective, and then just the overall direction and action sequences. This is why this is my favorite of the series, as you probably can guess. I know I've told you guys, but for listeners to probably guess, this is my favorite of the series. I think this is as close to a perfect Mission Impossible action movie that you can get. I think it just balances everything perfectly for me anyway. The cast is great. I really love the plot. Yeah, I find it. I'm actually struggling to think of something I actually don't like about this movie, to be honest.
So she a year after this, she made Hobbs and Shaw.
I was about to say, I thought it was her. Yeah.
Yeah, it is her. It's Hattie Shaw.
And she's the sister of what's his name, right? Of Statham, right?
Jason Statham. Yeah.
But like the difference in her between the two movies, I don't think is her acting, but it's so clear of how poor the script is for Hobbs and Shaw because she does have a great presence in that movie. That movie is just ridiculously stupid.
She's
This
probably
one,
like the only bright spot of that whole film. That was a
right,
terrible movie.
right. But this movie, it's clear that even when she's around stars, she can command the screen, which is crazy. Like she's so good in this, I think.
Yeah, she is.
So every summer, we just gonna pick a action
Vanessa
franchise that
Kirby.
has Kirby in it.
Yeah, so
Done.
next year we're going to do all of the MCU so that we can watch Fantastic
Oh my
Four when she finally shows
Oh
up.
God. That's it's pretty much gonna be all of 2026 is just gonna be MCU. We'll start in like fucking January.
No
Yeah, that
way. Do you
sounds
think we
great.
could honestly do it in a year? I don't even know if we
Year
could
of the
do it in a year.
Marvel. Oh, we definitely could. We could
Think
definitely do
so?
it in a year. If you exclude the TV series and stuff, we
Well, I was like,
definitely
can
could
you
do it.
exclude the TV series? I didn't even understand half of Thunderbolts because I hadn't watched the fucking TV
Yeah, that's a fair point.
show.
Speaking of that, Zach, we need to get back on the Kingdom and finish that TV series, but we'll do that later. Um, but man, yeah, I just think that to me, um, you say there's not something you don't like, or you can't find anything you don't like about the movie, and I'm not going to fight you on that at all. I get it. Like, I think the polish on this movie, like this is the most polished of the movies from like every angle. I think it looks the best. I think the soundtrack is very like dark and brooding and like almost like stadium style, like very just very big and like deep and like intense, and the acting is serious and everything. I didn't like it as much. I enjoyed the movie. It's still second for me overall, but it knocked down a couple pegs for me because number one, there's just it became a little bit too much about Ethan Hunt for me as opposed to like it's always about him, but they don't actually like have dialogue about his sacrifice and stuff. Like this to me was a little bit too much into the ego of Cruz. Um, and then the second thing is there is a scene where because they partner with the syndicate, or at least they partner with this organization
Hmm.
that with Vanessa Kirby's like team on something, and part of it is organizing this huge um like rally, and there's a scene where like not rally but like huge kind of event, and there's a scene where there's all these cops driving out around a corner, and the way like the angle and the music and the series, I felt like I was watching The Dark Knight, and I was like, okay, calm down, Mission Impossible. Like let's it lost a little bit of that like whimsy that I think Rogue Nation had that I loved.
Okay. They're pretty minor grievances then, overall.
Yeah.
I was waiting
I'll
for
take
Chris to
that.
come in here and talk about how shit Fallout was.
That was
Yeah,
my
I think it's
fear because you're such a fucking contrarian, Chris, that you were gonna say this is a piece of shit. I don't know. So
When we
no.
started this, I was like, Chris is gonna hate Fallout and he's gonna say Mission Impossible 2 is the best one.
I 100% was ready for Chris to say Mission Impossible 2 is the best one. I would not have been shocked.
So
I
everyone,
need
you
to go
know
back.
it's bad when not even Chris will defend the one that John Woo did.
I need to go back and watch it again because maybe I'll reassess after all this. Um, I was thinking about that, and I don't mean to take us on a huge tangent. I know it's already gone on for a while, but I would think it'd be interesting to redo some series. Maybe in our 10-year anniversary, we can redo our favorite series because I think there is something to like watching these Mission Impossible movies now and seeing like where it ends, and then going back and watching the first one again with that full arc in there. I think it's like a different experience, right?
No, the second one is still shit. I've seen all these movies so many times.
Okay, fair. Fair.
If anything, it makes the second one worse because the second one does try to have the tone of these Christopher McQuarrie ones, but just fails miserably.
Yeah, it's pretty silly.
I was wondering, and I don't know if you know this, Adam. If not, was this one at one time intended to be the end? Because it always, like when we get, especially when we get towards like the end of the movie, and you get like the sunset and everything else. I always kind of wondered, as like, was this really supposed to just kind of be it?
I don't know. I don't think so
I
because
don't know.
this was
And I'm not saying like
2018.
they put something that makes it feel like the end, but it feels like I guess where they're all individual, it just feels more the end. Maybe it's where like we had this Sean Harris like arc going on for 2 movies, which is kind of unusual for the series. That it kind of felt like, oh, okay, well, I
He's
don't
like the
think we can
big bad
go
kind of a
beyond
thing.
this.
Yeah, like he's like his Thanos or something.
I
Um,
mean, these both these movies made really good returns. Like they didn't cross the $1 billion mark, but they were made for about 150, and they both made over 700. So they, they were this was
yeah.
kind of their peak from that perspective too, in terms of if a studio is wanting more or not, you know?
And what you say in Thanos made me realize that really Sean Harris's character is just like Moriarty to like Ethan Hunt.
Yeah,
That's like the whole thing. I didn't put that
Oh,
together.
nice.
very
Which
much
would be
so.
a
And
cool Easter egg if he was related to Jared Harris, but he's not. So doesn't work.
yeah, when I saw his turn, I was like, is he related to Jared Harris? He
I had to
wasn't,
look it
so
up.
yeah.
Yeah, I was like, shit, he's not.
I suppose to that degree as well to kind of make that Thanos comparison just in terms of what came afterwards with Marvel, not to get kind of too ahead of ourselves, but I do think the next two films, Dead Reckoning, does take a little bit of a step back in terms of the villain. Like Solomon Lane is definitely, in my opinion, he's my favorite villain. Obviously, I know a lot of people say that, either Jim Phelps or Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, whose name I've forgotten, will be better. I like Solomon Lane as a character. I like that we see two completely different sides to him in the two movies. In Rogue Nation, he's very much this very kind of man in the shadows, doesn't get his hands dirty and just directs and orchestrates. Whereas in Fallout, we get to see him actually show off his skills as because obviously he was a skilled agent and mercenary. You know, we actually get to see those skills in action in Fallout. He's really great in his fight sequences that he has. So I love that we got to see kind of two different sides of him in the two films that he's in. Dead Reckoning does take a bit of a step back in the villain department, in my opinion. So I'll wait to obviously hear what you guys think of that. So possibly, my answer is I don't know. There's a 5 year gap until the next Mission Impossible movie, but most of that is due to COVID.
And I mean, these aren't yearly series. I mean, what I've noticed
No,
is, let's say we got Ghost Protocol in 11, you got Rogue Nation in 15, and then you got this one in what, 18?
yeah,
I mean, hell, that's taking its time as way modern action franchises go nowadays. That's
yeah,
slow
and
stepping it.
like Dead Reckoning is 5 years, 2023, but again, most of that is due to COVID because obviously, as we know, Tom Cruise is a huge advocate for theaters and theater experiences. So, that was delayed because they were waiting to get full theatrical, no holds barred releases
I
for
do
Dead
regret
Reckoning.
not
So,
seeing any of these in theaters because I feel like I'm definitely missing something, even with like a surround sound and everything.
well, I'll say like when you go to see Final Reckoning, because I assume you guys are going to go see it in the theaters while it's
Yeah,
still there. That was a great theater experience. I won't give my thoughts on the film or anything, because I'll save that for the next episode. But it's a great theater experience. I only ever seem to have positive theater experiences when Tom Cruise is involved, because Top Gun Maverick was fucking awesome in the theater as well.
I'm still mad at my girlfriend for that, by the way. I begged her for us to go see that movie. And she has this whole thing against the Navy because she has like dad issues because her dad was in the Navy. Whole thing, not gonna get into it. But she didn't want to go see it. And I was like, fine, we won't go see it. She kept saying maybe, so I never went to go see it myself. Then she was at her stepdad's house and watched it with him. And she's like, oh my God, that movie's so good. And I'm just so pissed. I
It's
was like, we
it's
could have
such
saw that in theaters.
it was so good in
It was in
theaters.
theaters for like 5 months.
Yeah, it made so much fucking money. That was a
Wait,
great
Zach,
theater
I want to get
experience.
into your girlfriend's daddy issues.
Well, I mean, while we're here,
Well,
Just kidding.
here,
I'll get
I'm
her.
just kidding.
I'll let her record a soundbite. We can like include it in here, and she can go through all of it.
maybe this can be a bonus feature for our Substack that we're gonna eventually launch. That we'll maybe tell you more about at the end of the
Coming
episode,
soon.
coming soon. But yeah, sorry. Back to Mission Impossible Fallout. Um, I fucking love this movie. I really I like it's become one of my comfort films now, where I put it on where I just wanted to sit there and turn my brain off for 2 hours and just have, enjoy myself. Um, the whole kind of final, again, not to get too much into spoiler territory, I guess, but like the whole final sequence with like the helicopters and stuff is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like you were saying, Zach, as well, coupling that with you know, there's kind of like there's two final sequences going on. You have what Ethan's up to, and then you have what his team are up to, and they're both working against the clock and have their different challenges, and they're both just hoping that the other has come through without actually knowing. They're just putting their kind of their hope, at one another. So I think they nailed the final sequence, and they probably did, you know, take that idea from the one in Rogue Nation, where Tom Cruise is in the water and Simon Pegg was trying to infiltrate the building. They probably did kind of take the idea to say that works really well from a tension point of view. Let's do that, but on a much bigger scale. Like, let's make this like if one of these guys does not do the right thing at the exact right second, the world is over. So let's just like blow that up. And they do that again in the most recent one, again at an even bigger scale. They do it again. There's a lot of stuff in this film that between this film and Rogue Nation, they took the parts that just work really well, and they say let's just do that again in the next couple of films. Obviously they obviously change it, but it's the same kind of basic idea. Because it does work really well. It builds a lot of tension. There's it's a film that does that really well. And I love I know I joked at the start about the plot and stuff because Mission Impossible movies essentially all the same plot. Um, but I love how this one is broken down and how the plot develops and how Henry Cavill, especially his character, is probably one of my favorite characters in the whole series. Um, about how he comes in, you see he seems like this kind of just hard nose, and it's like Henry Cavill, he's fucking Superman, he's just this agent. He's a bit of a hard ass, but he's just good at his fucking job. He just wants to do a good job or whatever. And the way they kind of slowly develop his turn, which I'm not really going to call it a spoiler because it
I
was
mean, they
already
kind of
spoiled
advertise
anyway.
it in the trailer,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
to
It
that degree.
was.
Like when I watched the bathroom fight, I thought it was between him and Cruz, based
Oh,
on the
right, okay.
trailers.
Yeah, yeah, it would come
And it,
across like that.
and then yeah, and then when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh, never mind.
They're just beating the shit out of some random guy whose name is not important for
Yeah, it's some dude.
some dude. They beat up some guy. Um, but yeah, I love how his character is developed and how the turn comes and the different twists involved with him and how Sean Harris's character gets back involved. As I said, Vanessa Kirby's character is a great addition. You'll be happy to know she's in the next one as well. Um, but yeah, Mission Impossible Fallout, genuinely one of my favorite films, especially of the last, 10 years or whatever. Absolutely love this film, but I respect your guys' opinion on it.
I do. Going back to that one scene where they're doing the bomb thing, and they have Tom Cruise having to do his thing. I did love the joke that they wrote in there. It's like, right, 2 seconds, you're going to do this. And he's like, 2 seconds, why would the difference? Like, do you want to cut it that close? I just thought that was great for this type of series.
Yeah, it's good. That's why you'd miss Ving Rhames. That's in Ghost Protocol. You really like Ving Rhames is just he's just great. He's a fucking great actor. I love Ving Rhames. And I love his character of Luther because he adds some comic relief, but it's a different type of comic relief than Simon Pegg. It's kind of funny, like with these films, you wouldn't ever really consider having two guys behind, the way there's always like a guy behind the computer in spy movies.
Right.
And Mission Impossible technically has two because Ving Rhames and Simon Pegg's characters operate in very similar areas, but because they're two very different characters and two very different actors, even though they kind of do the same job, having them both, you get a lot of value out of it because they just have different humor and different tones and different vibes. So I think having them both together in the last two films with Rogue Nation and Fallout, and then obviously continuing onwards, as a makeup of the team. I think it's a great combination to have.
And I think like they both do good at like cutting out potential like bullshit that you would see in a lot of the like a lot of type of action movies or like blockbusters and stuff. Like I think back kind of going back to Rogue Nation, there's that part where, they just he like Simon Pegg just makes it clear that he's not gonna leave. And we don't have this whole like bullshit about that. It's just like, nope, I'm not leaving, and then we're just gonna go with it. And I think these movies do a really good
Yeah,
job of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
of saying, hey, we could make this movie 3 hours if we wanted to by just adding these useless things. You know how they're gonna end. We're just gonna skip it all.
Yeah, like with these characters, it's more of a character thing, I guess. They they all the characters know that this is the job. There is that there's lines and stuff as well. Someone says, I'm expendable or whatever. They all kind of know this is part. There is no faffing about going, oh, I'm not going to leave you behind. I'm not going to take no for an answer. Blah blah blah. There's none of that shit in these
They know
movies.
the stakes.
They
They know
know,
how this can go.
yeah, exactly. They know what they're in for. So there's none of that faffing about with that stuff. This just like they'll just like say, oh, I'm expendable or go on without me, and they're just like, all right, see it. Just get and not in a cold way. They just kind of know it's the job. It is what it is. Um, so yeah. Any final
Any
thoughts on
No,
Fallout
I was just
or any of
thinking
the other
like no,
ones?
I think y'all are right on all this. I think the thing that is nice going like there's good instincts in these movies for exactly what people want from a summer blockbuster, right? And even though they are long, they don't feel like they're just trying to be long. Like I don't there's not they're pretty tight, even though they're long, right? And they're just
yeah, justifying their runtime.
I think so. And the individual part of the reason they're long is not because of script, thank God, because the writing in these movies is actually not that great. Well, it's no, it's good. It's good. It's just different. It's like
It's
a
efficient.
efficient, yeah.
Yeah.
But the set pieces and the action and the stunts are what take a while, which is fun because that makes it almost like a Hong Kong movie, like a Shaw Brothers movie or something, where it's really about the action sequences, right?
Yeah, they're the unique selling point of these movies is what crazy shit is Tom Cruise gonna do today?
Yeah.
I did realize in Fallout how much I wanted him to be in a Western because of that one scene where that guy's gonna like go shoot the cop. I was
Yeah.
like, Tom Cruise needs to be in a Western. I will
He would be
watch
he would
this.
be he would be great in a Western, I think. Um, just one other thing with Fallout just before we close out. The way there's that running joke where when men are watching Lord of the Rings, they'll always point out that Aragorn broke his toe. Know that
Yes.
joke?
It's like
Where it's like,
Tourette's. Yeah.
yeah, it's like we can't hold it in. We have to tell everyone that Viggo Mortensen broke his toe or his foot or whatever. I can give you one for Fallout if you're ever watching that with people. Know the part where when they're in London and he's jumping between the buildings.
Yes.
There's a part where he jumps and he kind of falls and catches
Yeah.
himself and then crawls up
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
building. So in that scene, Tom Cruise broke his ankle and then just
Is that why
just
he was
kept.
limping when he got up?
Yeah, yeah. He just
Why
Whoa.
broke
does
his
Tom
ankle.
Cruise do so many things that make me respect him? Why does he do this?
It was because I was watching me and Eve were watching this YouTube video. It was like a retrospective on the series that the BBC filmed, and they were just doing some interviews with cast and crew and stuff. And they were saying like they were like the interviewer asked, I think he asked Haley Atwell, she's in the next two films. They asked her, what do you think goes through Tom's head when stuff like this happens? And she's like, when Tom is filming, he's the actor first, and then he's a producer second, and then he's a human third. So he's acting, and if something goes wrong with the acting, he still has his producer hat on, so he knows he's just going to power the fuck through this scene because they need to finish the scene, and then he'll worry about all of that after it's cut. So
I think it
yeah,
may have been when I was looking up, I don't know if it was 4 or 5 I was looking up that said he got like beat all to hell in one of them. It may have been 5, where I think he had to like actually take time off because of like numerous injuries he had gotten.
I wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised. Yeah, there you go. I just thought I'd give you guys a fun anecdote for to see you guys
I
can
love
say
it.
that if
Yeah.
you ever watch it with someone, you can say, "Hey, see where he's limping? It's because he broke his ankle, but he still kept running. What a champ!" Um, so there you go.
He flexes a lot too. Like that scene, that exact moment where he jumped between buildings and almost missed. They filmed the camera at the angle in such a way where it was obvious there was nothing directly under him.
Yeah,
So they're clever too. Like if he fell, I'm sure they had something like way underneath, but he would have fallen for a while.
yeah.
Yeah,
He
I'm guessing
does
they have like inflatable that they can CGI, like they can
something they
remove.
can CGI out
Yeah,
or something.
you just chroma key it out or something. But either way, still falling that far, you just don't know what's going to go wrong, even if you do hit that. So
Exactly,
Yeah, and there's
exactly.
some. I can't wait to talk about the stunts on these next two films because even though I think they're weaker in terms of the plot, they amp it up in the stunts department. So I can't wait to talk about the next two films with you guys in a
That's
few
cool.
weeks. About all the crazy shit that Tom got up to in the last few years, making those. So yeah, we'll wrap it up. Obviously, next episode we're going to talk about Dead Reckoning, which is also known as Dead Reckoning Part One. But don't worry about the Part One part because they changed the name of the next one because it's the Final Reckoning. Final Reckoning is out in theaters right now, so obviously this is a bit different for what we do in this podcast normally, where we're talking about fucking 50s movies or whatever. We're gonna be talking about a movie that is probably still gonna be in the theater by the time we record. So of course,
have we
we
done
always
that since Barbenheimer?
that'll be the only time since Barbenheimer, I believe, that we've talked
Uh,
about. And Chris wasn't even there for that. An Adam Zach special, where we talked about Barbenheimer as soon as I got home from seeing Barbie. We recorded that. So, but yeah, just obviously give listeners a heads up, if you're not planning on seeing it in theaters or waiting for streaming or whatever, or maybe you fucking hate Mission Impossible, in which case, why are you here now listening to me at the end of a Mission Impossible special part two?
they
But
were
if
really
so,
hoping Chris was just going to like lay into these films. That's what they were banking on.
that's honestly, that's fair. That's honestly understandable. But yeah, obviously, look, if you get a chance to catch it in theaters, I really recommend. I saw it in theaters on Monday. Even though it's not my favorite Mission Impossible movie, and I can talk about that why next time out. It's a great theater experience. So I hope you guys, as in you, Chris and Zach, I hope you guys enjoy it. And also any listeners who haven't had a chance to see it, I'd recommend going to see it before the next episode because we will be talking about it and we'll probably get into spoilers like we usually do. Um, One final thing before we wrap up, just to kind of give half an announcement because we're not fully ready yet. We are going to be launching a Substack. It's going to be free. We're not, it's not going to be, we're not going to be hiding stuff behind a paywall or anything like that. For any long-term listeners, you guys might remember when we had a website where we posted reviews and stuff. We kind of wanted to get back to that a little bit, but without having the work that goes behind building and maintaining a website. So we're going to launch a Substack. It's not ready yet. We're hoping by the time the next episode comes out, then we'll be ready to go and launch and have a few articles. So more about that probably next episode and post links and everything like that. But just thought we'd give you a heads up. And like I said, going to be free. We're probably going to do an option to subscribe. That'll be like purely optional, just if you want to support the podcast. But we don't plan on putting anything behind a paywall, except for Zach's girlfriend's rant about her dad
Five
and the
dollars,
Navy.
guys. $5.
I think it'll be worth it personally. It'd be good value for your money. But yeah, that's us for this episode. Thanks you guys again for coming and watching these movies. I'm glad that you liked all of them. This has been a nice moment for me because usually when I pick movies, one of you fucking hates them. So, and it's usually Zach. So yeah, it's been fun.
No, thanks. This is a fun series. This is much better than the Fast and the Furious summer.
Not even close, brother. Not
Yeah.
even close.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.